Yeah, I'm telling you, it's been a long wait, but it has been well worth the wait, and it's been a lot of fun to see where everything ended up with this tournament. It's exactly what we were hoping we would get, and we have gotten it. And I think that that is a great place for us to be as hockey fans in North America. Yes, we're going to have to get up very early tomorrow for
Yeah,
this game.
8:10 a.m.
We'll talk
Eastern.
about Yeah, we'll talk about why that is too, just because I know a lot of people are up in arms about it, but this is what happens every single year. So this is just the same as always. We're very lucky that we are going to be able to watch probably the most anticipated hockey game in the last 16 years. I mean, it's the Olympics. This is bigger than the Four Nations. This is bigger than, the Olympics without without the NHL players. This is as big as it gets, and we have been waiting and waiting and waiting for it, and finally it's here.
Yeah, it's one of those big games where the consequences aren't just hockey related, so everyone kind of gets involved and the chatter is just incessant on social media, and the smallest little piece of news gets picked up on for quite literally anything associated to the hockey. But a lot of players are coming in here with injuries that we don't necessarily know about. Some of them we do know about, and some of them I don't believe the news that we're necessarily hearing about them. But Morrissey is not going to be available for Canada, which is to be expected. We didn't think he would be there.
Yeah.
And then Sidney Crosby's just everyone's wondering. I don't believe what they're saying though.
Yeah, it's hard to understand who to believe, right? I mean, like, he skated, but it was closed to the media.
So did
We're
he actually
not
skate?
sure. Yeah, I mean, like, no one saw it, so it's their word against everybody else's. Apparently it went well. We've got reporters putting percentages on him playing and that they think he's going to play. And I think what I do know is that if Sidney Crosby has a leg to stand on,
Yeah, he'll
he's going to
play.
find a way to play. The question is that the right thing to do?
Mhm.
Does that hamper you in any way if you're taking somebody out of the lineup? And if you are taking somebody out of the lineup, who are you taking out of the lineup? And there's a lot of those discussions that need to be had still.
Yeah,
And who
Chris,
knows what's going to
I can
happen?
tell you, it's Cassidy Gray's best friend, Seth Jarvis. He will not play if Sidney Crosby's going to play. They will sort the lines out. You told me earlier he played about 8 minutes. Someone's got to go, and Sam Bennett has to play in this style of game. So that's the math. I'm sorry, Seth. You probably wouldn't play. And Canada also has the ability to put guys on the wing who don't necessarily always play on the wing either, because that's just how talented this group is. So you don't really have to worry about like the position factor of it, aside from it being a forward or a defenseman. Um, yeah, Chris, I would like to see Crosby play because it's important. It would most likely be
Mhm.
his last Olympics unless he goes as like the fourth line guy 4 years from now if he's still deciding to just go the Cullen route and go wheels off. But I don't believe what they're reporting. I think they're trying to make it annoying to game plan against Canada because if Crosby is playing, it changes how Canada runs their lines a lot. So I think it's a little deception. His injury looked bad. So,
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think that if you're Team USA, you can't it can't really matter to you. I think what you're getting is potentially a diminished Crosby at most, and maybe just a bench Crosby, as we saw Victor Hedman just sit on the bench
mhm.
and try to be a leader from there. And I mean, what it sounds like though is that Canada needs his leadership, right? Like, it seems like they needed to be settled down a couple of times, and he had to, provide that level of leadership, which is what we would expect Sidney Crosby to do. But when we get into the more nitty gritty of this game and what Canada needs to do and what USA needs to do, Canada needs to make sure that they play far better than they did in the
Yeah.
last two games. That's going to be, something that, and if you put, I think with having the extra forward available to you, you feel the flexibility. Like, this is where that 13th forward really comes in handy.
Hmm.
But the question is, like, if you're looking at ice time, Sam Reinhart had the least amount of ice time. Seth Jarvis was not far behind him, but Reinhart also scored in the last game.
Power
So,
play guy
like,
too, right? So that's where,
yeah, you got to have him. You got to
yeah.
have him on there. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of intrigue in terms of what's happening. In the end, I think for the U.S., it can't matter. they have their own injury situation. Tage Thompson did not play the third period in the game. He did skate today. Their practice was open to the media. People saw him skating. He was able to walk. There was talk about him maybe having a foot injury from the last game. That's another guy where he's probably going to play. I don't know if you saw the news, but the Hershey Bears said that, hey, his dad, Brent Thompson's an assistant coach there, and they gave him a leave of absence so that he could go watch his son at the Olympics. And I'd have to think that Tage is playing if dad's on the way to Milan. So, I think he'll be in there, and that's a guy, maybe he only plays power play. Maybe he's only in there for a little bit, but I think that you can structure that just fine.
You can do that with Crosby too, though, right, Chris? So that's a good point. Crosby can do the same thing, right? So you can just have Crosby out for the power play, and he can do his thing. If if it's an issue with him being able to fully extend on his stride, luckily on the power play, as long as you're keeping possession, you don't have to do that nearly as much. So, and he's not the breakout guy on the power play anyway, so it's a safer position to have him in. But I think there is valuable wisdom from a guy who's won it. But you have to remember, there's guys on this team, they won it last year. The majority of the players on this roster have already done this before. So I'm hoping that allows them to relax a little bit more going into this situation, as opposed to I think probably a lot more nerves going into the Four Nations face-offs, because the implications outside of hockey were even higher than they are right now. So, and there was drama. So I would suspect that they can work their way through it, but having Crosby there, most likely he kind of comes in as a coach too. So it's not just like wisdom and calming them down; it's strategic. And if you're Tom Wilson and you're getting a little riled up, and Sidney Crosby tells you to settle it the heck down, I think you're going to settle it the heck down, Chris.
I think if anybody can do it, Sid can. I think he's obviously the strongest voice in that room, and is a guy that the game is better if he's in it. I want to see him in there too. And I'm, obviously my allegiances are the opposite of yours. I would love to see, I haven't seen a U.S. team win a gold medal in my lifetime. I would very much like to see that, but I would also like to see it done best on best, truly. And, obviously if there's no Crosby, you kind of feel a little bit less of that, but at the same time, you still got to worry about McKinnon, McDavid, Macklin Celebrini, Cale Makar. The list goes on and on and on. And so we are going to have probably the largest collection of talent in one setting that we've seen in years and years. And that, that includes the Four Nations. That includes, I think that the U.S. team is as good as they have ever been at this event in terms of the quality of their lineup. And I think Canada, while they haven't necessarily played to the highest level yet, and we've seen them good and bad and indifferent, but I think that these are two teams that have every reason to believe there is something special that's going to happen tomorrow morning.
Well, see, Chris, the difference between you and me is I don't have the ability to be an unbiased professional like you do, where you're able to give analysis that isn't tainted by your allegiance. Unfortunately, this means so much to me, to the point where I'm sitting here tonight and I already have knots in my stomach. That's how much I actually care. And it's hard for me to turn the coach's hat off, or whatever you want to call. I can't take that hat off. I am that guy. I will be sitting there yelling at my monitor, and I'd probably be less nervous on the bench at the game than I would be having to sit here and just have no say, no control over anything. But right after the break, guys, we are going to show you, or tell you, what the keys to victory will be for Team Canada. But first, I have to tell you about Fortune Tires. Fortune Tires on FloHockey, whether driving to the rink or cross country, find the nearest retailer near you at FortuneTireUSA.com, and we'll see you guys right after the break.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise, on the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
we're back, and the nerves since the last, 3 minutes, they're getting worse. But we're going to talk to you about the keys to victory for Team Canada. They won at the Four Nations face-off in a more accelerated short tournament under a slightly different rule set in a different environment as well. Also, at the probably 12 hours later, that game would have started versus when this one starts at 8:10. Probably started at 8:10 Eastern. Yeah. So, Canada's keys to victory, Chris. Because I'm not biased, I'll tell you them. My unbiased keys to victory are they have to shut down players like Austin Matthews early, and you do that by hitting him. He wears down in games if he is shut down by just the physicality rather than just trying to take the puck from him. So you can make him disappear. You have to match up Tom Wilson, Sam Bennett, and Brad Marchand against the Tkachuk line plus Eichel. So they're going to do their thing. Well, they've got guys on Canada that are bigger than them. And also, we got guys who are teammates. So that would be just make it a little extra funny to see what they have to do with each other when they get back after this to be friends again. But that's a lineup match. You have to have it because the Tkachuks will not be able to play their game and disrupt the way that they are. But you can't take it too far. So Tom Wilson's got to take it 50% every single time. Maybe just use verbal jabs a little bit more and try and get the guys going rather than pushing after the whistle because they will call you. Now I've seen a lot of roughings and 2-2 and throwing both guys in, but that's a very important part for the game. Sam Bennett also can't crash the net like he has been, but I don't see that necessarily being a problem. He probably learned his mistake, I would hope.
You better have.
Yeah. Listen, Crosby, whoever, I don't care who's in the lineup, but whoever's taking faceoffs has to be winning them. And Cooper's been really set on this, hey, I'm going to have the perfect center out in every situation, and they have plays off the faceoff. I understand the importance of those, but they have to just start winning faceoffs early. So that's just, I'm going to say it probably 3 or 4 times amongst this segment. That's a key critical fact. Bennett, yes, he's going to do his thing. Tom Wilson's going to do his thing, but Macklin Celebrini needs to skate the puck up the middle. Same thing with Connor McDavid. They need to attack the middle because the United States is going to be trying to clog it up by not playing a 1-3-1 necessarily, but they really get thick in the neutral zone. So Canada has to break through that. There's not a lot of space to push outside. Push through the middle. Eventually, you will break through. It might be uncomfortable. And if you get nervous, just dump the puck in. You're going to be doing that anyway half the time. They can't play dump and chase against the United States. The United States also can't play dump and chase against Canada. It's a stupid thing now with the small ice and how good these goalies are at playing the puck. I would think Binner's actually probably better at playing the puck than Hellebuck, but Hellebuck still can play the puck very well, is you have a third defenseman sitting out there. So, they've got to do stuff with the puck to just don't give it to the goalie right away. So, yeah, your breakout's got to be a little bit different. Cale Makar on defense has got to shoot. They need to shoot a little bit more, but I said this 3 shows ago. Don't shoot it right into a guy's legs. If you have to throw a knuckleballer or just chip a puck. But we got to see more shots. Same thing out of Connor McDavid. He has to shoot more. He can't be making the extra pass because they're trying to be perfect. He is a shooter. He shoots in the NHL. If he's in the slot, he's not passing the puck unless Draisaitl's wide open. So Draisaitl's not there, and you're in the slot, shoot the puck. And that's really, I think, most of it. I stole that last one from my dad. Credit to him. Yeah, I don't know.
That sounded like a dad.
My dad went to school for broadcasting, but never actually did it. So I'm just living through him by not going to school for broadcasting and ending up here with you.
Well, yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of good things in there too. And, something we talked about, obviously there's going to be a physical nature to this game. We saw it in the Four Nations with, the fights and everything else. But I think more about, in that first game, Charlie McAvoy laying out McDavid and doing all these different things. And there is going to be some heavy hits early in this game. And there's going to probably be a couple of penalties to try to settle things down at some point. But I think for Canada, not getting sucked into that. And because I do think Canada's got some faster and quicker players than the US has top to bottom in terms of, it's probably, it's a little closer to even, but when you have superstars like McDavid, Celebrini, McKinnon, Makar that have that high motor where USA is countering, with Hughes, in terms of speed, I think Eichel's, he's deceptively fast. There's a lot of other guys that you can
Mark Stone
have. Say that again.
Mark Stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Deceptively fast.
I'd like to see. Yeah, we should definitely get a fastest skater with some of these guys.
NHL's slowest, fastest skater.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. But I think there's so many, matchups here. The other thing is really, Jordan Binnington has continually proven and reproven that he can show up in these big moments for this team and that he can play well enough in the games, and then at times, as we saw in the Four Nations last year, play even better than well enough. And so if he is going to be a factor in this game, that is going to really challenge Team USA. If he's going to be good in this game, that's going to really challenge Team USA. They're going to have to try to get to him as early as possible, get in his kitchen as much as they possibly can, and see where, if you can kind of knock that off kilter a little bit. There are going to be some advantages to the Olympic rules. Obviously, we're not going to see anybody dropping the gloves, although it'd be kind of funny if it did happen. And
the only way it happens, Chris,
conducts off the hop here.
The only way it happens if there's a blowout and no one wants it. Right. It's bad for all sides, because if there is a blowout and the United States it starts doing stuff, or Canada starts doing stuff, it's a lose-lose for everyone. And someone's going to hurt someone if there's a blowout. Like, I can guarantee you someone will be out for the season if that happens with this group. You can't have it happen. It's the players have to know. You would think the coaches also were smart enough to tell them if it's going a negative way, hey, like, play hockey, don't spear someone. But I would. There's going to be a major penalty called in this game, I think, one way or the other.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, that could be a disaster for either team, because you're talking about two of the best power plays in this tournament. You're talking about, and the U.S. hasn't allowed a power play goal at this point, but if you have a major, there's definitely a high likelihood that power play that Canada has is going to find a way to score. So, special teams, I think, will be a big factor in this one. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how the referees let it play out. We haven't seen what the referee assignments are going to be yet. Is it going to be an all-Canadian crew? Is it going to be an all-American crew? Is it going to be a mix of both? Is it going to be European guys? Who knows?
I hope it's European guys, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, but I think there's zero shot at that. It'll be NHL refs for this game.
50-50 it'll be half.
It should be 50-50, I think, too. And but yeah, I mean, I can't wait though for the matching of wits too. I think you've got two great coaches between John Cooper and Mike Sullivan, and then you've got, Cooper has the last change. He's gotten some lines that he can kind of go to in tough situations. USA hasn't really had to do that a ton. They did a little bit, but they haven't really had to shake up their lineup too much, whereas Canada has and has had success with it too.
Yeah, and I love the line matching is like and last change is probably. I don't want to say it can decide a game, but it's really impactful when you're playing with this group of elite players, because you're able to shift things. Where in the NHL, there's teams that you're gonna match off their first line, and if their second line's out there, you're really not so worried. In this game, there's gonna be a third line out there where you're going, oh God, we have to try and get our guys that can score against these guys. And then a different fourth line where you go, we need to get our guys that can hit and score. It's such a weird dynamic. You don't see it in the NHL. Every single line could be a first line and win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Throughout both of these rosters.
No question.
So it's really, really tough. You're line matching at a different click. The only one I can say that is guaranteed is Tom Wilson being out there when the Kachucks are out there. That's really the only one I can say is 100%. After that, I don't know what you do. That's why these guys coach and I sit at home and get stressed out.
Yeah, it's going to be the line matching situation is going to be quite interesting with Canada having the last change, just by virtue of having scored more goals in the preliminary round. That is where we're at. So it's going to be an absolute war, and in a completely different way than what we saw at the Four Nations.
Yep, and there's really not a whole lot of other storylines coming out of this because of the results of the other games. So no one's sitting there like, oh, this third seed should be here instead or anything like that.
Right.
Everyone else kind of just fell off in the way that it was expected to have happen. And then with the exception of Sweden finishing a little bit lower, Slovakia does not get a medal. The Finnish do what they needed to do. It's Canada versus USA. It all just seems to shake out after nothing making sense at the start of the tournament. Now everything's starting to make sense. But Chris will give you the USA's keys to victory, because I don't think they have any. But before that, I have to tell you guys about Fortune Tires on FloHockey, the official tire of the AHL. Find your nearest retailer at fortunetireusa.com. And after the break, we'll see what he gets to make up. Who knows?
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
Back from the break, and Chris is going to give you guys the keys to victory for the United States. Chris, what do you got for me?
Yeah, well, there's plenty to talk about here, because I think this U.S. team, as I've mentioned many times, I feel like it's one of the best on paper that USA has sent to this event. It's built, with good balance. There's a lot of different guys that have played roles. I know people were kind of wringing their hands about JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck being included on this roster, yet they've been excellent on the penalty kill. I think the D core, as it is quick. It moves pucks well. It is well built, and it's well balanced. As I said before, Jackson Lacombe, who I think is an outstanding defenseman, hasn't been able to play and won't play. So that just kind of shows you the strength of this team. I think that there's so much to like about it. When it comes to keys to victory for this game, I think there's some really important things USA is going to have to do early. One is to establish that, that game that does have that more physical vibe to it. It's not, I think Canada will counteract that more than enough. I don't think it's something where you can knock Canada off their game, but you do want to try to make sure that things are difficult for the top players. McDavid can't be getting through the neutral zone clean. Celebrini is a younger guy. You kind of have to go after and try to get him a little bit off of his game. Same with McKinnon. How much can you check on him? Those guys played 25 minutes. McDavid and Celebrini played 25 minutes against Finland. They're going to be out there a lot. They're going to get their chances. So you got to make sure that things are difficult when they're out there and that they're worn down by the end of that game. So that's something that USA is going to have to establish right off the hop. Every time they have played a top player, where that we've seen it. The Kachuk brothers are typically going right on them. They're on them the whole game. Matthew Tkachuk was cross-checking Slavkovsky off the face-off, right off the hop. Like there were all these different things that they're doing. That's going to be part of the swagger and identity or whatever. That's not as important as what I think is this part, and that's being able to enter the zone with possession. Because you talked about it. If you're trying to dump pucks in, they struggled mightily against that with Sweden. They have guys that can enter the zone with speed. They have guys that can make plays at the offensive blue line to get and keep possession. And I think you're going to have to do that on a fairly regular basis. If you are going to dump the puck, you better be on the forecheck as hard as you've been on any game for this whole thing. I think that was one thing that Sweden was able to nullify very quickly. Their defense were able to exit the zone super quick. If USA tries to dump the puck more often than they're entering with possession, they're going to have a really hard time generating offense, because I think Canada has the horses to get it out. But I do think that there are holes on Canada's blue line. There are guys that they're not going to play as much. Drew Doughty's ice time was under 10 minutes last game. You're going to have a number of guys that you're going to want to try to pressure. Shea Theodore, you're going to want to be on Makar. You're going to want to be on Taves. Those guys are going to play a lot. Not having Josh Morrissey is not great news for Canada. So that's tough too. The other key to victory for me is very simple. Connor Hellebuck. He's faced a lot of criticism for his ability to play in big games. He's faced criticism for not being a playoff goalie. He's faced criticism for, having all these individual accolades, but still not winning the big one. He has a chance to erase that, really in a significant way here. And maybe that propels him going forward. I mean, this is a guy that has a Hart Trophy, a Vezina. He's played, he was the best goalie in college hockey. I mean, he's one of the best goalies in college hockey ever. And so this is a guy that has done everything historically. He has been built for this moment. He has a .947 save percentage in these Olympics. It's very quietly has been the best goalie in the Olympics.
Yep.
And so that, to me, those things all combined, they all have to come together. I think, Quinn Hughes is critical. Connor Hellebuck is critical. Austin Matthews is critical. You talked about taking him away early. He's played really well. Mm-hmm. I think he's gotten a lot of criticism, but I think he's played really, really well, especially over the last 2 games. I've really liked his game. He's going to be a factor. And if Canada allows him to be a factor, that's really problematic for Canada.
Yeah, I anticipate the line matching to avoid seeing Celebrini and the Tkachuk brothers on the ice at the same time. But if you focus too much on one first line trying to do your thing there, you're going to get burnt by one of the other ones. And we've seen it time and time again where the scoring comes from guys like Reinhart, who had only played 12 minutes. You're going to see other guys step up in those roles when they're just simply not getting looked at as much. So it's important as you try and line match as best you can. As the advantage I would say that Canada has is their aggressor line, their shutdown line isn't their first line. But for the United States, their best line at doing that is their first line. So how does that all play out? And do they just throw line matching to the wind near the end of the game and just try and run certain players way more? But Austin Matthews dealing with injury this year. Brady dealing with injury this year. We saw him wincing in pain during the game against Slovakia. There's a lot of factors going into it outside of just, yes, so-and-so doesn't necessarily perform when the pressure's on. They were saying that about Mitch Marner for the longest period of time, but then Mitch is showing in back-to-back international tournaments that's just, he just can't play in Toronto. He can play anywhere else but Toronto. And then Connor Hellebuck, sometimes his team has kind of held him out to dry, but he has just personally in the net crumbled himself. So that is, without Hellebuck, the one bad game, right? So this all comes down to that. But you throw everything out from what we've seen in the tournament thus far, because it is a one-game matchup of 2 teams that have not played each other in this tournament yet. Before Nations face-off, Canada had played and lost to the United States before. They came back and were able to win a game in overtime. It's the freshest possible slate that they could be working with. So I'd be interested to see. You can give all the analysis you want about the line matching and everything. Who knows? It might just completely come out the window. This could be a bit of and especially with the U.S. having a bit of a speed advantage on defense, this could be a sprint off the start. But whoever scores first typically wins. Canada's proven that wrong 2 games in a row. So that adversity, could that be a good tool for them to be able to utilize? Because the United States hasn't had to deal with the same.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. And, I think we really, the biggest adversity the US faced was, you know, a last minute goal from Sweden, and then they bounced back and won an OT. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but that's good experience too. They've been resilient in the tournament, not just maybe in smaller doses of late, but gosh, I cannot wait. I really cannot wait. I think it's going to be just amazing to watch. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thrilled that we're going to have this opportunity.
And there's been a lot of discussions, but one thing brought up has been the boards and the weird bounces that you can see out of them. It hasn't been a discussion about the quality of the ice. So as teams are talking about trying to keep the puck away from the goaltenders, I wonder if anyone has found any of those areas where they know if they rim the puck in there, that it will spit itself back out, just like the old Memorial Arena in Belleville, Ontario used to have a super sharp corner that you could just put the puck out right in front of the net. Have they started to find where those spots are? Because the boards, they've been weird.
They have been, and that's going to play a factor at some point. It played a factor in the women's game. We'll see if it does it again here in the men's game, because that's going to be, in the when the margins are so slim between these two teams, it could take something weird happening to change the tide.
Or a weird thing like an offside. We saw so much drama related to offsides, and just so much discussion. I'm hoping that doesn't end up being a factor, because it's silly. But that, and then also how they're calling the icings. We saw Canada multiple times look like they were going to be able to beat out the icing, and the whistle blows a little bit earlier in the double IHF. Is that going to be a factor that we're going to see in this game? And when we have two really good teams play against each other, there is often a lot of icings. And on the smaller ice, there's often, even then, more icing. So that is another factor that we have to deal with in this game, is are these little nonsensical things like icings and offside really going to play a large factor?
Yeah, we're gonna find out, and we have less than 12 hours to find out. So I'm pretty, it's all starting to feel pretty real right now. So now I'm starting to feel a little bit of the stuff that you're we're talking about this game. Now I'm starting to feel that pit in my stomach a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like the movie Click, where if I could fast forward, I definitely would. But speaking of that, there's a lot of other athletes going to be in the stands. This is one of the reasons why we watched this game played at 8 a.m. is everything's wrapping up. They're done. This closes it out in terms of the sports, and then the closing ceremonies end up happening. I just don't understand, Chris, why this game isn't played on a Saturday, and this tournament doesn't start 2 days earlier, and they add a break to the prelims. It's just this tournament, 8 a.m. is not ideal. You've got people, on the other coast that are watching it in literally is late or early in the morning, or late. It depends on how you want to put it. But after the break, guys, we're going to talk about the bronze medal game that some people might have watched between Finland and Slovakia. But first, I'm going to tell you guys that Fortune Tires is the official tire of the AHL. They're built for every drive, every season. Find yours at FortuneTireUSA.com, and we will see you guys right after the break.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
Oh, we're back. And we're back from the break, guys. And I have to tell you guys about the most insane thing that just happened is when I looked away from the screen for 2 seconds and got distracted. Talking about Teemu Solani and his insane statement that we made a video on that went absolutely nuclear on the internet. I'm sorry I upset the entire country of Finland. But speaking of Finland, they are able to kind of right the ship and beat Slovakia to get a bronze medal in the Olympics. Chris, what are your thoughts on the close game that became not close?
Yeah, I give Slovakia a ton of credit. They hung in there for quite a while, and then all of a sudden, I think Finland's depth showed how much that mattered.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up winning the game 6-1. It was, there are a couple of empty netters in there, so it was a little bit worse than maybe the score was probably worse. Game suggested that it was 4 goals in the third period from Finland. That was a rough one there for Slovakia to come back from. But this is what Finland does. They always find a way. In 5 of the 6 Olympics that have been played with NHL players, they have a medal. They have a silver, and they have the rest are bronze medals. This is a country that will play to the bitter end. If there's something on the line, they're going to play you hard, and they're going to play really strong. They had no Barkov for the whole tournament. Mikko Rantanen did not play today. But guys like Sebastian Aho, Miro Heiskanen, Erik Haula, Joel Armia, a lot of guys stepped up into big spots for this team and played extremely well. They got good goaltending from UC Saros, who now has a bronze medal among his accolades. He made 30 saves in the game. And then, I feel for Samuel Halavai, who had a very strong game, making 29 saves on 33 shots for Slovakia. He'd been great all tournament. Plays for the Iowa Wild, has been in the AHL all year. It's been a tough season. You would have loved to have seen him kind of get this moment to himself. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, go that way as Finland just was too much in the end. And now they have another bronze medal. So in 7 of the last 9 Olympics, so including last time around when there were no NHLers, they have a medal. And they had a medal back in 94 as well, which was the first one or the last one before NHLers came in. So this is a country that will always give you their best, and they play the same way all the time. In the end, very, happy for those players. They clearly wanted that bronze medal. They didn't want to leave empty-handed, and you do feel for Slovakia, who played so well throughout the tournament, was one of the great stories of the tournament as well.
Yeah, eventually any streak burns out, and that's what we saw with Slovakia, where they weren't able to maintain that, moxie they had to start the tournament. So Slovakia also dealing with just everyone knew if you're going to try and beat Slovakia, you just target Juraj Slafkovský and it'll go your way. The bronze medal game, one of those games where not everyone pays so much attention to it, but for the European countries, it tends to matter a little bit more when the NHL is at the Olympics because it's just that much harder to get. It's like how on the women's side, the bronze medal is the best of the rest because Canada always plays the USA for gold. Right. So it still really does mean something to those countries. Although if United States or Canada was going to go win a bronze medal, they wouldn't want the medal. So very interesting how that all splits up. I would love to have seen the gold medal game played today instead, and we just shift the tournament around. Maybe someone will listen and do things for efficiency's sake, because the Olympics is all about getting views. But if it's, what time will it be? 5 a.m. on the West Coast when the game starts? I'm sorry, but people will not be waking up.
Well, I think they will if it's USA Canada. I think. So, the reason that the game is at the time that it's at is because of the closing ceremonies. They always have it. Hockey has, I don't know when it started, but it has almost always been one of the very last events of every Olympics. And it was like a big moment in Vancouver, Team Canada winning. And then, the closing ceremonies, that was a midday game. And then the closing ceremonies were that night. And so, when USA had started most of their games, they started them at 9:10 p.m. local time. So if they didn't want to have the closing ceremonies at, 2 a.m, I guess. So that's why it is the way it is. It sucks. We'd love to see it in a more friendly, thing, but unfortunately the world doesn't revolve around us in North America as much as we would like it to. And and so, yeah, so in the end, like this will be nice when it's in Salt Lake in 8 years. But it'll be the same story when it's in France in 4 years. So it'll very likely be hockey being the last thing. And maybe at some point, like the one thing that could happen, Babs, is, the NHL says, hey, can we get some schedule flexibility here that may help, push it in a different direction. But, in the end, they want hockey to take center stage, and center stage in whatever location they're in. And that doesn't always mean that it'll be center stage here. But I think, Canada has lifted the liquor licenses so that they can sell alcohol at 6 a.m. So go to your local bars there. I know there'll be a ton of establishments open in the U.S. as well. So, I mean, like it's kind of a unique thing. And I think we're going to see a big number for this game because it is early enough, but not so early that you're going to be missing the largest chunk of your audience.
One fun point we should make is that we haven't done the Fortune 4 yet today. So here are Fortune 4 players who drove the action on the ice. Chris, who are your best players from the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to go with a couple of guys on both the medal teams. And to me, Quinn Hughes is the quintessential player for Team USA. He has done everything for them. He has been their engine. He is their safety valve. He takes over games when needed, scored the game-winning goal against Sweden. Quinn Hughes has been everything. He's got points in every game that they've played. And I also got to go with Connor Hellebuck. He has been their backstop, the rock in the net, the guy that they are all looking to. There is a lot of faith in that player. 947 save percentage. He's looking like one of the best goalies here. I'm certain he'll win the Directorate Award for the #1 goalie in this event. So got to give it to those two guys.
I have to go with Connor McDavid, who has been single-handedly at some points in the game driving the Canadian offense, playing an insane amount of minutes and coming up clutch when he needed to, alongside the young guy, Macklin Celebrini, who has stepped into this Olympics where people weren't sure if he was even going to make this team, and has been one of the best players for Team Canada and one of the best players in the tournament. Chris, it's kind of crazy that if we do talk about the fact that people were upset that Connor Bedard wasn't there and that, Celebrini was in there and there was all this discourse as to like who should have been on Team Canada, to then see what Celebrini has done, it separates him dramatically far away from Connor Bedard at this point. He's solidified already himself as the next, I don't want to say the next McDavid, but like Celebrini kind of is.
I mean, he came along quicker, than McDavid came along in Sid's era, So I mean, like that's kind of part of it. It's really intriguing. We've got that next guy, and it is Macklin Celebrini. I think that, to look at the point totals that he has, to look at the confidence that he's played with, the fact that he plays so well with McDavid, the fact that when there's a nuclear lineup, the nuclear option he is part of the nuclear option. That's insane. He's 19 years old. He was in the USHL 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was, not that long ago. And here he is on the biggest stage, being one of the best players. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. He is a freak. That's all we can say about it.
And I think maybe this could be a situation where it puts a little bit more pressure on Connor Bedard to catch up, and when he realizes that, yes, he will be on the Olympic team the next time things come around, but is he going to be the top guy at the Olympics? Bedard was supposed to be the saving grace of this Canadian program. Celebrini was less spoken about with regards to that, but has come up faster and been utterly dominant at points and doesn't seem scared or nervous at all, which makes it even scarier that he is this young. We wonder what the ceiling is going to be, and will he end up being the best player in the entirety of the NHL? He's on his way there, but also at the same time, too, in the career of Tom Wilson, this Olympics also changes how people look at him for a long time before the Stanley Cup or anything like that. Tom Wilson was just looked at as a goon, and now I think he's been painted in a completely different picture.
Yeah, I think if enough people, you take away the hits and other things like that, if you watch Tom Wilson play hockey and you watch the pace that he plays at, his ability to score, his ability to get in on the forecheck, the physicality that he does bring beyond the fighting, he's a really good player. And he's a big man. He does a lot of things well. He's also been like, you talk to like literally anybody that has ever played with him or has known him for any period of time, he is like everyone's favorite teammate. And so that's a really good thing too. Like to have that kind of label. Yeah, he's vilified in a lot of fan bases across the NHL, and he has done some out-of-pocket stuff, no question about it. This is a really good hockey player, totally deserving of this spot on this team.
Hey guys, after the break, we're just going to talk more about some of the biggest moments from the Olympics thus far, and yes, this game, unfortunately, is going to be mentioned.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
There's been a lot to be said about the Olympics. It was so much drama before it even started, and then we got there. My most memorable moment, really, thus far, was the last overtime win for Team Canada. Just the drama of everything. So and being able to see some of these guys who I didn't think could come up clutch do so, like Mitch Marner. It's just it's special, but it's definitely got to be the Mitch Marner goal, I think, so far has been my most memorable moment. Outside of watching Italy play and having it just be a goon show, that was also very, very exciting. Watching them in Sweden get close and then it fall apart and them get in guys' faces. That was also hilarious, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of things. I think, for me, the most memorable thing thus far is the women's win. Megan Keller with the slip deke around the defenseman and then just poking one through. Just a remarkable moment. I mean, the fact that Hillary Knight tied the game late to set the record, and then Megan Keller, and that goal was actually Keller's 9th point of the tournament, which tied her with Caroline Harvey for the most points of any player. So 2 Team USA defensemen were leading the points in that, and I think that was great. It was also there's a semi-personal bias on that too. Is, you know, I worked with John Robleski at the national team program for years, seeing him get a gold medal. He was actually the head coach of Jack Hughes's U18 team. I was at that event covering it for ESPN at the time, and they did not win that tournament. And to see his reaction and the emotion that he had on the bench, and, you know, having been through it, he had won other tournaments in the past and had won things at other levels, but to see that moment, that was pretty special for me. And it's been an incredible Olympics start to finish. There's been so much that is really, you know, that we'll take away from this for years and years. And gosh, I you know, it's just, I am going to miss it when it's gone. I'm going to miss doing this show, I'm sure, maybe. You know, like, well, I think it's been great to be able to have these chats with you. And we're going to have one more show too. We're going to be on live after the gold medal game tomorrow. We're going to be on it. It's going to be 11:30 Eastern time. Hopefully we'll be caffeinated, and we'll see what shape Babs is in. We'll see what shape I'm in. Can I keep the veneer long enough, or will I be just waving flags or whatever? I have no idea.
I can tell you right now, there's going to be no caffeine in my system tomorrow. I don't need it.
You're not going to need it. Adrenaline, pure adrenaline, baby.
Another fun thing about the tournament is I always like looking at the players and their equipment and which companies were able to like get stuff sorted out. Because I was watching players on the Swiss women's team have tape over their gloves because things weren't properly cleared. That's always funny. I love not seeing the advertisements on the boards as well. That has been a nice treat. The goalies probably weren't super happy with how dark the boards were, but that has been nice. Not having those digital boards, which sometimes can catch your eye at the worst possible time. That's something that I think the NHL should implement. Is the board should just stay stable while play is going on, and then you can swap them if there's a whistle or like in transition. But I don't want to like watch a play happen, then all of a sudden I see like a cup flying across the boards to promote some coffee brand. So that is one great thing about the Olympics. Also, not seeing advertisements on the players' helmets either. That is in some ways nice, because it's starting to become European hockey over in North America with that too.
Yeah, it has been interesting seeing the World Championships, and now like people are actually sponsoring the U.S. jerseys. It used to always be like the European companies. Now the American companies are actually sponsoring them and making them look extra European. But man, it's this whole experience and watching the hockey that we've had a chance to see here over these last few days, or few weeks rather. You know, it's just a great reminder of the health of the game. I think that's probably been one of the most exciting takeaways is yes, it was still on the women's side. It was still USA versus Canada, but you got to see Sweden really have a big moment on the big stage. Switzerland get another medal. You know, other countries take steps forward. You know, even Italy getting into the quarterfinals, which was a huge accomplishment for that country. And then on the men's side, the tight games, the how close teams have come to beating the superpowers and sometimes beating them. That to me was going to be a huge takeaway, is that the health of the game internationally, it's probably never been healthier. And that's really great. And, you know, there is no Russia in this tournament. That would have enhanced the competitive level of it. But at the same time, we did not see a major letdown like we do often in the World Juniors, under 18s, the different things where the depth matters. Didn't see that here as much. And that was really awesome to watch.
Yeah. Tomorrow, the biggest game of probably the century is going to go down in Milan. And it'll happen really early in the morning. We're going to sign off here and see you guys tomorrow. And I don't know what my face will look like, but hopefully it looks like this. And 11:30 tomorrow. You get to see that reaction. We'll see you guys later.
Crowd already engaged here tonight. Break play. Going in. Byro. Scores.
We'll play some hockey, eh? Hockey. We're going to play hockey today.
Yano for it. He'll wrap a shot on a goal and gets his first goal of the season. Floating out of the air. Wow. Going in. Crowd already engaged here tonight. Inside the blue line, along the wall. Centering pass off a skate. Long ahead, this goes. Break play, going in. Byro scores.
We'll play some hockey, eh? Hockey, we're gonna play hockey today.
Yano for it. He'll wrap a shot on a goal and gets his first goal of the season. Floating out of the air.